For more on the potential price of this political stalemate in the US and its effect on the global economy, we're now joined live by economist Peter Weston. Mr. Weston, welcome to RT. It's good to see you here. In your opinion, just how bad would a default be?
Oh, a default would be a catastrophic event. You would have the increase in the cost of borrowing for around the globe. You would have inflation in the US increasing on the back of a very sharply falling dollar. And it would basically affect every single country in the world, given that the dollar remains the key reserve currency.
Right, but do you think the US will make a last-minute decision and find an agreement to raise the debt ceiling?
Well, I think they will have to, given that, as I said, it's going to be a catastrophic event. The unfortunate issue is that you have a number of politicians on the Republican side, the so-called Tea Party, which actually believe that a default would not, that US can actually handle a default, something which I think is very reckless and irresponsible. You're looking at a Congress that is basically run by children. And the fortunate thing is that the people that believe that the default could be manageable is very tiny, but it's the question of winning them over. And the longer we drag on to the 17th of October deadline, the more concerned will the markets be. So far we see quite a sort of calm sell-off, and we've seen a couple of days when the markets actually have gone up on some sort of belief that some solution will be found. Which I think in the end will be found, because, again, this would be a catastrophic event if you do see a default.
Why would lawmakers leave such a massive decision until the very last moment?
Well, it is an issue of, just because these are politicians that have to solve their own problems. If you go back to 2007 and 2008, we had a financial crisis, which was solved by politicians actually coming together. This time you have a political crisis that has to be solved by politicians.
Go back home. Don't come
and
to
given
work.
that you have such a split, such a divide along the party lines in the US, and a very small fraction again that actually holds the balance, are determined not to give in. So it's really that the negotiations are just continuing, and basically people think that the longer we hold on to it, the quicker will the other party cave in, which doesn't seem to be the case. And unfortunately, the US population gets stuck in the middle.
Right. We're hearing some various calls from different countries, from China, for example, for the so-called de-Americanization of the world. But is anything changes? Has anything changed since the crisis of 2008?
Well, as I said, the crisis 2007 and 2008 was a financial crisis that was successfully solved by politicians. This time you do have a political crisis that has to be solved by politicians. So that's the real change. To actually de-Americanize, as they're calling it, is going to be, if it's going to happen, a very slow process. But given that we see time and time again these political crises appear in the US, I think there would be more calls for a sort of trying to reduce dependency on America in the same way as America has been trying to reduce dependency on the Middle East for its oil. But it has to be a very slow and sort of gradual process.
Right. Do you think there is any other single currency capable of replacing the US dollar in international transactions?
Near term, there's no real currency that can replace the dollar. I mean, the euro would be the best candidate, but if you look at the other currencies people have been talking about, people have mentioned the renminbi in China, even the Russian ruble. However, these currencies are not convertible, and also you have to reprice most commodities that are now priced in dollars. You would have to reprice in these currencies. So there's no quick sort of alternative to the dollar as we see it right now.
Right, the US doesn't actually have the highest debt to GDP in the world, but why are people losing faith then?
Well, in this case, it's not really about the level of debt. It's the ability to repay the debt they actually have. With the new ceiling, with the old ceiling, they can pay $30 billion. What they owe on the 17th is going to be $60 billion. So it's basically defaulting on this debt or having to reduce spendings elsewhere to find the money to pay the debt. Any options of those would probably bring the US back into recession and therefore also have ripple effects into the global economy. So the distrust is really of Russia, about the US actually being able to repay their debt. It's not actually about the debt level.
All right, Peter Weston.